What's going on, ScreenRant? It's Liam Crowley here at South by Southwest, and we are kicking off our Sunday with the cast and crew from Take No Prisoners. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Happy to be here, Liam.
So this project, this documentary, we're going into the real-world situations that happen with hostage situations across the world, how America gets involved. I heard that this project started from a conversation you two had on a rooftop in D.C. Can you tell me about that?
Yes. August 22, Roger and I were having drinks on a rooftop overlooking the Potomac, and we hadn't seen each other since before the pandemic. And in that time, he had become the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs. Sort of walking through what he was doing, we talked about our families, and he casually mentions 25% of his caseload is in Venezuela. That means 25% of all American hostages were being held in one country.
And from there, we just push the narrative
I was like,
forward.
that's a story. And so I went to State Department, and then I had to go to the White House to get permission to kind of dive into that story. And as I did, I was invited to the October 1st, 2022 release of 7 Americans who were traded for 2 narco traffickers.
Wow. And so, Subrata, when it comes to like getting clearance for the stuff you guys were filming, was that something you all established from the get-go, from the beginning, or did things as they continued to escalate, you have to get more special permissions? Because I know that there was one moment especially where it's like, we got to turn the cameras off here, and that kind of changes what we're watching as an audience.
I mean, turning the cameras off often is turning them off for a few minutes and then kind of retreating back, and then you're always engaged a little bit with, you've got an ongoing conversation with everybody. Access comes in incremental steps. So, you start, you get the first puzzle piece, and then you build and you build and you build. And when you sit through this documentary, that's exactly what you see is just like, it's like opening the aperture, right, of a camera. You're like, you start really narrow, and then it's like, okay. And that's how basically the access works too. We ask for more and more every time. And a lot of it is obviously Adam's incredible relationships, but also just Roger's reputation and work, and then the family's trust.
Yeah, it was a true honor to see your story, Roger, because like, you're a hero. What you do, you sacrifice so much. One of my best friends is in the Secret Service. He only started about 6 months ago, and I'm already seeing like 2 days off a year, forfeiting holidays, vacations, all that kind of stuff. To me, watching this, it seems like you never allowed yourself to have a personal life when you're at work. Just walk me through your mindset.
I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I would say I don't feel like a hero because, as Adam knows, because I've known him so long, he witnesses the people that don't come home, or the people that take a long time to get home. Avon Hernandez, who you've seen as highlighted in the film, we meet him at just over 200 days of captivity in Venezuela, and he ends up coming home after 629 days. And so in a way, you don't feel like a hero because you're not making sure that the clock keeps speeding up during these negotiations. But at the same time, maybe to hit your question, this is a job that doesn't let you slack in any way, shape, or form. If you can't bring 110% of yourself to this job, you shouldn't be doing it. Therefore, you do make sacrifices. And I'm very grateful that I have a family that allowed me to do this work so hard for so long.
Yeah, one of the things that really got me was the familial connection you established with the Hernandez family. I feel like something like that, you're doing more than what is just asked of you. Maybe you feel like you need to do that. That's a responsibility that you've taken on. But just how crucial is that to be essentially a part of that family? You're talking with them every single day. That moment at the end when you guys have that barbecue together, you feel like you're laughing, having, good times and all that. How crucial is it to kind of insert yourself as part of the family there?
Yeah, let me start off and then turn it over to Adam, because I think to me it's fundamental. In a way, you don't have to. Your real job is to negotiate for the return of someone held overseas. But I think when I came in, I felt like that was the missing element, that we have to surge on the families, build a partnership with them, do not be government at a distance, but be government very close. And the people that we hired on our team were the type of people who were empathetic enough to really put themselves in the shoes of these people and really try to laugh with them, cry with them, and struggle to get their loved ones home. But Adam, when he first met me on that rooftop in D.C., he said, "So you're going to go out to Los Angeles and see the family?" And he really thought that was interesting. So Adam, if I can kick that over to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only area of kind of Americans in a relationship with their own government where where else do you see a special presidential envoy getting on a flight, renting a car, driving to Compton, sitting with a family, drinking with them, eating with them, crying with them, giving them their cell phone number and saying, call me 24/7? That's like an constituent service on crack.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, I mean, we've all had the terrible customer service moments where, like, it feels like you're not there, but it's in a very serious case, like, you know, you're asking for a family member to get returned and returned safely. And I can't imagine the phone calls when you have to keep relaying bad news day and day and day after day, and just kind of striking that balance. Like, I don't know how you make those phone calls.
Yeah, we promised them that we're not going to be just close when there's good news to deliver. We're going to be there when there's bad news. And you'll see one moment on the film where we deliver some not really bad news, but it's bad enough. But the idea is you have to be able to call a family and say, hey, you know that effort that we were working on that we thought was going to work? It just crashed and burned, and we have to start all over again. And you owe the family that immediacy and that honesty in order to build that trusting relationship with them.
Yeah, Gene, when it came to Avon Hernandez's story, the one that we're spotlighting for this documentary, we were talking before we started rolling. Everyone who's watching this knows about the Brittany Griner situation that happened, because notable name, a big trade happened, and even though it took months, which, you know, we don't want these things to take longer than minutes, it still happened very quickly by comparison. Talk to me just about the power of spotlighting such a civilian case in this hostage situation.
Well, that's exactly what we decided to do. Was, you know, there were every time there's a name in bright lights that is held hostage, there's plenty of attention to that story. But when you look at Roger's caseload and the list of cases that there are, that's a small fraction of the actual cases. And Adam specifically felt really strongly about Avon's case because of the irony of being a public defender in Los Angeles who spends his life standing up for people and being in a position where he needs someone to stand up for him. And so that, you know, forms the emotional core of the movie is, you know, Roger's relationship with the family and standing up for them when no one else will.
Yeah, and something I found very admirable about Avon, he never really lets it get to him. All the conversations I heard is like, yeah, you know, I'm still stuck here. It sounds like me waiting at the airport when a flight gets delayed. I'm sure you dealt with other situations where people are a little bit more panicked.
Oh, yeah, I could tell you thousands of stories where people are on the other side. But to your point, I'm glad you brought that up. We would go down to Caracas, the House of Dreams, a place that was it was a torture factory at one point. And Avon, when we would meet with him, would not only tell his story to us when we're in Caracas to meet prisoners, but he would also go in with other prisoners because they would say, I want Avon to come in and help me tell my story. And then when we weren't around, Avon is in a way lobbying and fighting for the rights of his fellow prisoners. In a place like Venezuela, that could actually put you on the wrong side of the prison warden and the prison population. And yet Avon went into that situation coolly, calmly, and acted like a public defender while he was in Caracas in prison. So the guy is very courageous and the kind of guy that if I was ever in prison, heaven forbid, I'd want him next to me, and we don't wish that on either of us. But Avon's an amazing individual.
Yeah, it's fascinating, like you said, because he's advocating for other people who have other emotions, have other backstories, effectively. Subrata and Adam, I don't want to say like turning this into an anthology series for the sake of entertainment, but there's value in telling other people's stories with this specific hostage crisis. Is that something either of you have discussed, possibly taking this concept and spotlighting other people's stories?
I mean, I think the thing about it is it's not even our decision to do because these stories are going to continue. So, you know, if in any way, I mean, as journalists, but also as filmmakers, we're going to keep telling these stories. It happens all the time. And I think that we talked a lot about how much you were drawn into just like the unknown part of the story, the family experience. It's very dramatic. It's also compelling. It's also universal, right? Like we can all feel this kind of narrative and also honestly the stress and pressure that this American family is going through. So the short answer is yes. Yeah. And the long answer is that, you know, it's a little more complicated, but yeah, we plan to.
Well, it's complicated for the access issue you talked about.
Yeah.
We feel so lucky that we were able to talk ourselves into enough of the rooms that you see us in the movie to be able to tell this story. but it's daunting to think about doing that over and over again. You know, in a lot of ways, we had Roger on our side, and it made it possible. But like, I think the stories deserve to be told, but make no mistake, it's hard to tell them.
Yeah, very much so. There's a pressure, right, to deliver once you start rolling, because you guys started rolling cameras before Avon was rescued.
Yes, and there was a 6-month period when nothing was happening. And you're making a film and you're burning money.
You're making a film and you don't know what's going to happen, right? And you hope for that outcome. You also have a family that is, you know, it is a really compelling, excruciating watch. But can you imagine, like, you're living it for that family? You're there with cameras. You want to be respectful. There's a lot of good news. There's a lot of bad news, and you need to be there for all of it. So, I think as filmmakers, you want to be sensitive. They want you there. They don't want you there. Like, you know, it's that push and pull, unlike scripted, where, you know, this is really it's real life. It's total real life.
Adam, you've worked in scripted stuff before. I love The Recruit. I was heartbroken at the news recently. Is it fully done?
TBD.
TBD? So there's a chance we get a season 3?
So what you're saying is there's a chance.
I hope so. I consider Noah a friend at this point. Me and Noah had a good chat in January.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
You watch Coffee Chats?
Yeah.
Look at this guy. He knows his ScreenRant content.
No, I did see that. He's great, and I'm excited to see him in Warfare coming up.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be
Alex
wild.
Garland.
Yeah.
Cast is stacked. But I hope we get a season 3. I don't know. I'm optimistic.
You heard it here, everyone. Season
We
3.
love the show. We'd love to be able to do it.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, Take No Prisoners, an absolute achievement. Again, I was very moved by this film. You got me crying on the plane on the way to South by Southwest. So glad we could get a triumphant tale on this weekend. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank
you.
you, Liam.
Thanks, Liam.